Okay, so we are talking about wool pressing mats today. So it's Monday, which means Maker Monday, which means we show you how to do something. So one of the things that people ask me a lot is, what's the hype about wool mats, right? Because there's wool mats came out about 3 or 4 years ago. And at first I thought it was a little bit like, oh, okay, that's a cool little trick. And then I started using them, and now I use them a lot. I use them for all kinds of things. Do we have one of the round ones up here? I didn't put that on the sale, but we could talk about it. I think they're in the bags on the other side over here. So here's a couple of little tips that we're going to talk about first. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Wool mats are good for lots of different options. One, they're great for when you need a small pressing surface, like you're going to a retreat, or you want a space that's next to your sewing machine, or you want to have an extra surface. But honestly, I put mine right on top of my ironing board all the time because it does a lot of other things that my ironing board can't do. So we're going to talk tips and tricks about how to use a wool mat, when and how and why. Okay, and then we're going to talk about some things that go really well with your wool mat. So this is a mat that I've been using for a couple of years. I use it all the time. I really love it. I've washed it and dried it, and it needs to be washed and dried again. So the reason I like these particular mats, there's a couple of reasons. One, these are made in the US. So they have a smaller carbon footprint because we're not shipping from all over the place. These are made with 100% wool, and it's almost like they're felted. So like if you've ever felted wool and you take like roving and you just stab the hell out of it until it becomes one solid piece, that's kind of how this works. So these are just a little bit more than a ½ an inch thick, which means you can do a couple of things with it. One, I stick my pins right into it. So if I'm laying out blocks, let's say this was a block and this was a block, I could lay them out like that and actually pin them down if I wanted to look at them then this way. So this is handy. I can pin right into the mat, or see how my fabric sticks to it? So if I want to use it like a little mini design wall, I can do that. But the reason that the sticking is nice is because my fabric actually sticks to it when I'm pressing. So the reason I like these mats is because when I press on this, especially with steam, it's almost like it's pressing from the top and the bottom, because what happens is the steam goes through the fabric, hits the mat, and comes back the other way. Okay? So first I'm going to show you how to use your mat, and then I'm going to show you how not to use your mat. Okay? I like reliable irons because they make a hell of a lot of steam. Like, they just steam everything. But when you're pressing, you want to set your seam first, right? So pressing is one of those things that makes me a little bit crazy, because nobody ever teaches you how to press. When you watch a lot of sewing videos, nobody teaches you that part. Pressing is a big deal when it comes to quilting. So we're going to set our seam, and once you set your seam and you go and feel this, it just sinks into the wool. So your stitching line here, I can't even feel those threads. They have just buried themselves into the fabric. So now when I go to press my fabric to one side, see how the fabric just sticks to the mat? It doesn't even move. So it's really easy to press your seams in one direction because the fabric doesn't move. So you don't even have to really hold it. You can just press it. And then when you feel the back side of this, you can't feel the thread on the back side either, because the steam has just made the threads sink into the fibers of this fabric. So that even works if you're going to press a smaller piece. So here's a much smaller block. I'm going to set the seam, and then I'm going to pull this back, and I'm going to press that open, and see how the fabric just stuck to the mat and it didn't move? Look at how pretty that seam is pressed now. Okay, so obviously pressing your seams is a really great option with wool mats. If you're going to use it as a travel mat, then why not have a travel iron? So this is my favorite travel iron. It's called the Steam Fast Travel Iron. I like it for a couple of reasons. It's small, it fits right into your hand. So if you have a hard time picking up a heavy iron, this one's really nice for traveling with. It's not great for if you're going to press a whole bunch of blocks in your studio because it doesn't have the weight to it, but it's great for a travel iron. It's also just the right size for in the hoop embroidery. So if you have some reason that you need to press something down in the hoop, it fits within your hoop, okay? It does have steam in it. You put water in it, and you can adjust the heat settings. I always have my heat turned all the way up. So I picked a piece of fabric that was pretty wrinkly because this is a piece of fabric that was on the fold on the bolt. And I want to show you how well this, not only does this tiny little iron work, but the mat itself makes the heat more intense because it takes the heat from the top part of the iron and bounces it back and pushes it up to the back of the fabric. Okay, so even that really hard fold from the fabric being on the bolt, it just presses that away. And we're talking about an iron that weighs about 4.5 ounces. So there's no pushing here. It's all the heat, but the reaction of the heat from the mat is what's really making that press flat. Okay, so those are a couple of the features of using a mat. Now, here's the things I hear people complain about when they're using their mat. I put it on my cutting board and I used it like a pressing mat and I warped my cutting mat. Yep, that's going to happen because this is fiber. So your steam is going to go through this. And that's the idea, is that the steam goes through. The backside of this is wet right now. Not sopping wet, but it's damp because the steam came through the iron and went through my mat. So I put a pressing mat, a pressing sheet under my wool mat if I'm going to use it anywhere other than my ironing board. Okay, your mats are expensive. Don't ruin this very nice expensive mat by putting this wool mat on top of it and then drowning it in steam. That is not what this is intended for. Don't take and put this on your laminated countertop or a painted surface because the steam is going to go through this and onto your mat. But if you have a like a steel table or an ironing board or a finished wood table or a melamine table, you can set these right on top of those surfaces and steam on it. Okay, but if you don't have those surfaces, a fusing mat works great underneath that. This one just happens to be the same size as the mat that I use in my studio. It works great. Okay, the other combination that I really like with my pressing mat is my flatter spray. If you combine a wool mat and a bottle of flatter, you're going to get the most amazing flat fabric you've ever seen, and it's going to be nice and crisp. Okay, so I'm actually turning my steam off so you can see how amazing this flatter really works. So this iron, this is without steam, but sprayed with a bit of flatter, and look at how pretty that fabric is. I love using peppered cotton. I use peppered cotton in just about every project I ever make, but the thing that people don't like about peppered cotton is it frays because it's a weave. So see these little threads pop out? If you take your fabric and treat it with flatter and press it before you start cutting it, you'll have a lot less fraying.
It is a little more difficult to press too, which even makes the iron look even better in the mat.
Well, this is the flatter that made this really look flat. So the combination of a wool mat and flatter and a good iron, it's gonna change the way you press everything, okay? So again, I think that pressing is one of those skill sets that is overlooked a lot in the sewing community because this is not the sexy part of quilting, right? This is not the picking up the colors and the pretty designs and the fancy designers. This is like, you know, this is like the labor part of sewing. But
sexy when you do it.
Oh, well, hey, thanks. But the pressing is just as important as the cutting and the piecing. Okay, so get you good tools that help you press effectively. Okay? So the irons that we carry in the store, I carry Chi irons and I carry reliable irons. That's what this iron is reliable, okay? I carry this in 3 different models. I think the only one I have in stock right now is the 1 temperature one. The 1 temperature one is great if all you do is quilt because it's hot. It's always hot. And your options are hot and wet or hot and dry. So if you turn the steam off, it's hot and dry. This one is the one that I use the most. This is the Reliable Velocity, I think it's the 260 model. Yeah, 260 IR. I am sold out of this one right now. I have the 230, which is the same as this iron, only not digital. And then I have the 1 temperature, always good for quilting iron. So those are available on the website. You can go to a website and look at reliable irons. Those are one of those things that are hard for me to get my hands on right now. So, but I do have people ask me a lot about if I like this iron, so that's why I thought it would be nice to demo it.
Question about how did you wash your mat? Because people did not know that you could do that.
You can wash them. You wash them by hand, like in a tub. So if you like flatter spray, you will love the counterpart to flatter is called soak. And it has the same scents and the same plant-based ingredients that flatter has, but it's a wash. So I have those on the website too. It's not something I'm doing on the comment sold sale, but it's designed for a hand knitted stuff. So you don't have to wring it and you don't have to rinse it. It's for hand washed stuff, but it's great for quilts because it's all plant-based, which means it's not going to make your colors run and it's not going to make your colors fade. And it's gentle enough that I know people that use it as body wash because 1, it smells amazing, and we're going to talk about the smells in a second, but it's gentle enough that you can wash this kind of stuff with it. But I just take my mat. If your sink is big enough, you can do it in the sink. If not, then you can put it in the bathtub, put a little bit of soak, like maybe a tablespoon or 2 of soak, and mix it around in the water, and then let this set in there and let it soak up the water. And then I just kind of like with a soft bristled brush, just kind of brush it off. Because what happens is, you know, it gets like little dirt spots and stuff on it, which is okay. It's just, especially from using starch and stuff, that it gets buildup on it, and then you hang it up to dry. So I just clip it with a hanger and let it hang in the shower. It takes a little minute for it to dry because it's really thick wool, but you don't wash it in the washing machine or put it in the dryer. So that's how I wash it. Okay?
All right, Debbie's first instructor said to never steam. Your thoughts on that?
I steam everything. Okay, I take that back. I don't always steam, but when I am pressing or when I'm quilting, I use steam most of the time. The one time I try to avoid steam a little bit is when I'm working with anything with a bias after it's been trimmed. So when I'm a pre-washer, so I will pre-wash all my fabric and then I will heat set my fabric with flatter and a hot dry iron. So I repress everything. And then when I'm actually sewing or pressing or piecing, I will always set my seam. I usually set my seam with steam and then press it open and then press it again without steam because it dries it out if I need to. If you are not a pre-washer, and there's no judgment, but if you are not a pre-washer, steam will make any shrinkage happen, any minute shrinkage that is going to come from a good quality quilting fabric. Steam will usually do any of that shrinkage that you need. Some people don't like steam because of the stretch that happens in bias. In fact, I don't think we've posted it yet, but I just did a TikTok video about when to steam and when not to steam. So that is like a little 60-second video that should be posted in the next week or 2. But yeah, I use steam more times than not, but it's just personal preference. If you're doing an interfacing or a stabilizer or some other product on your fabric as an addition, then you need to read the manufacturer's directions on whether or not to steam. Like obviously Steama Seam likes steam, but it likes steam in a very specific step. It's not all of the time. It likes steam in a very specific step. So if you're doing interfacings or stabilizers, you should always read the directions, okay? But if you're using cotton, cotton really likes steam. So, is that it?
One more. What is the difference between flatter and best press?
In my opinion, I like flatter better because it's all plant-based, and I'm really sensitive to artificial scents and fragrances. Like any sort of air fresheners or detergents and stuff give me an instant raging headache. This stuff doesn't, and it smells amazing. In fact, it's so plant-based that you can't water this stuff down, because if you put tap water in this, it'll grow mold because there's no preservatives in it to keep it from growing mold. So, in my opinion, for what it's worth, this is a better quality product because of what it's made from. And the only best press I can use is the scentless, because the other stuff gives me an instant headache. I just like the quality of the products that are in this better. So let's say that's conventional and this is organic. Okay, I don't know that it's organic. I'm just using those as descriptive words. So that's basically the difference. This is still a starch-free starch alternative. It doesn't have starch in it. That's the other thing I prefer about this over Best Press, is if you use Best Press kind of heavy, it will flake and it will leave a residue on your iron, and this doesn't. So it comes in a bigger bottle, but I also have smaller bottles if you want to try the smaller bottles. The smaller bottles are also small enough that you can take them on a plane without checking them, because they're only 2-ounce bottles. And so you don't have to pack them in your luggage if you want to take them when you travel. And it's also called flatter, not just because you iron with it, but it'll take wrinkles out. So if you travel, you can spray your stuff with it and it'll take wrinkles out. Also, static in your skirt. Was it you? Rebecca had this, I don't remember what kind of skirt she had on one day, but it was winter time, and it was all staticky and stuck to her butt. And so I'm like, go spray some flatter on it. And she's like, trust me. So she's up here flipping her skirt around and spraying flatter on her stuff, and it works. Yeah. It works really good, and you smell nice. So, okay. So if we don't have any other questions, we're gonna talk product. Okay, are we good?
That's it.
Okay, so this is a comment sold sale. You can either comment sold on the things as they come through. You can hop over to the website and you can purchase these things. You can buy them through the app, whatever you prefer. Okay, so the first thing that we talked about is my fancy little tiny baby iron. She's so cute. I feel like it looks like a mouse. I feel like it needs to have little eyeballs on it. But these are great travel irons. They're great in the hoop embroidery irons. They're good for taking to retreats. They're good for if you do foundation piecing and you want to have a little iron next to your sewing machine. These irons are not, in my opinion, are not great for all piecing, because sometimes you need an iron with some weight. But these are a good travel iron. I really like them, and for the price, you can't really beat it. They're only 30 bucks. And this sucker gets hot. It is just as hot as my big iron, easily. Okay, so number 801 is the Steam Fast Travel Iron. She's very cute. I think we need to come up with a mousy name for her. I do have one larger size mat that I'm not showing on the sale today, just because it's kind of hard to ship, but it is available over on the website, and we'll talk about the size of that one in a second. So the first mat that we're showing is the one that I probably sell the most of. This mat is 13.5 by 13.5 inches. So it's just about the right size to fit next to your sewing machine or to take on a retreat. Okay, so this is a good size to start with. People ask me what size mat they should get. I always say you should get the biggest mat that will fit on your ironing board or whatever surface you're using. So if you're trying to make a smaller area in your room work better, and you want to piggyback your cutting table and make it also a pressing table, then I would get a bigger mat, but I would also make sure that you get an applique sheet that's big, at least as big, if not bigger than your mat, and just put it on the other side of your cutting table. So for instance, my cutting table right here has a cutting mat. This is my cutting mat, but then this space that's over here would be just the right size for a wool mat, okay? And this is melamine, so you could press on it. I would be a little afraid that the steam would come over here onto my mat though, and I would make sure that I had this covered somehow. Okay, but if you're not a steamer, then you don't have to worry about that anyway, okay? So the 13.5 inch square mat is number 802. This is a really good starting size. If you're not entirely sure if you want to do this, but you want to play with one, this is a good place to start. The next one is the 17 by 17, which is also a square. So 803 is a slightly larger mat. This one is 4 inches bigger than the other one. So to give you some size reference. Okay, so if you have an oversized ironing board, this is the right size to fit on an oversized ironing board and still have, you know, space to use the rest of your ironing board. If you have a bigger sewing table, this would fit next to your machine too. So this is 13 by 13 and a half square, and this is 17 inches square. Okay, and then number 804 is the size that I'm using in the demo. Okay, so this one is 14, just slightly over 14 and by 19 inches. So that's the size that I used in the demo. This is a good size for taking up like half of your ironing board or sitting off to the side of your cutting mat. Okay, they also now make, and I don't have any in the store right now, so I'm not showing them, but they do make ones that fit the entire top of your ironing board. Those are really groovy too, and I have some of those on the way, but I didn't have any to show in today's demo. So this one is 14 by 19. So those are the 3 mats we had to show. Martelli also came out with a round mat. This fits just perfectly on top of their roundabout cutting system. So if you would like to see the roundabout cutting system, I'm happy to show that. But this is just an extra layer for their cutting mat. And it is just the right size for their round cutting mat. Or if you just like a round mat, you can use this without their cutting surface. That one's not on the sale, but it is on the website. Okay, then we're gonna talk about flatter. Flatter comes in 6 different scents, well, 5 cents and a scentless. My favorite ones are the Lacy, which is number 805. This is an 8-ounce bottle. It also comes in a 2-ounce bottle. But the 2-ounce bottle is $10 and the 8-ounce bottle is $13, so you do the math, okay? I always have the sample bottles because some people just want to try it, or like I said, those are great to travel with because you don't have to check them. And since they double as a wrinkle reducer, you could take that when you travel, okay? So Lacy, I try to use descriptive words for what they smell like. The names on them are kind of perfect for what they smell like. Lacy smells like, it's kind of, I don't want to say old-fashioned, you know, but it has a very classic, clean smell, like clean cotton laundry. So Lacy is number 805. This is an 8-ounce bottle. This will last you a while. If for some reason you feel like you need to make this last longer and you want to water it down, I would discourage that for multiple reasons. One, we talked about how it'll grow mold if you put water in it. But if you put water in it, it's going to change the chemical composition of what this is made to do, and so then it won't work as well. If the smell is a little strong for you, you can always add scentless to it, and it would calm the smell down, but I really do love the smells of these, okay? So Lacy smells like lace. Number 806 is the Uzu. This one smells like fresh oranges. It's got a really nice citrusy smell, not lemony, much more oranges. Uzu's like a Japanese citrus fruit. It smells so good. This one smells happy. So number 806 is Uzu. These are, I'm just showing you the big bottles. If you want to try the small bottles, they are available over on the website. We always combine shipping, so don't worry about that. Number 807 is the Pineapple Grove. This smells like a pina colada, okay? Oh, that's where I was going. If you do feel the overwhelming need to water this down for some reason, you need to put a little bit of vodka in it when you do that so that it doesn't grow mold. It will kill the bacteria to a certain extent. It won't for a long period of time. Because again, this is an all-natural product, and if you put tap water in it, even if you put bottled water in it, there's still stuff that's living in there that will grow weird things, okay? So the Pineapple Grove smells like a pina colada. Number 808 is called Celebration. The only way I describe this is that it literally smells like the color pink. I don't know how else to explain what Celebration smells like. It's happy, and it's bright, and it's florally, but it smells like the color pink, okay? So Celebration is number 808. Number 809, straightforward, scentless. This don't smell like nothing. Still does all the things that the other ones do. It just doesn't smell like anything. So if you really don't want to have smell, we got you on that too. And then number 810, this is my other favorite one. That's why it's in the studio and it's open and it's one I use. This one's called Fig. This one has a very clean smell as well. It smells kind of green and natural. So this is the one I use the most. This is the one that when we're staticky ends up making us not staticky, okay? So that's number 810. And again, I do have all of these in soak, which is the washing solution, which is also made by the same company. You can wash your quilts in it, you can wash your lingerie, you can wash your bathing suits, your hand knitted items. So if you're a knitter, soak is really great for that. And you can wash your wool mats. All right, are we good? Does anybody have questions?
We did have a request to show the Martelli
The roundabout, we have one up here, don't we? So this is the Martelli Roundabout Mat. It comes as a full set of items. If you have a round cutter or a rotating cutting mat, you probably have one that's square, which is fine. But what happens is if you're standing here next to your square cutting table and you turn it, what happens? It hits you in the belly button, right? So Martelli makes a round cutting surface. This is the turntable section, so you can DJ if you want to. This is the cutting surface, okay? So you can cut right on this, turn it, cut the other side, turn it, right? And it has ball bearings in it, so it turns very smoothly. I like that about this too. It is not two pieces of plastic that happen to be round, so the round parts turn together. This actually has ball bearings, so it turns very smoothly, okay? It is, I wanna say 14 inches. They just came out with a smaller one that's about 10 inches. I don't have those yet. I've ordered them, but they haven't shown up yet. So this is the cutting surface. This is the pressing surface that also fits on the turntable, okay? This pressing surface has a board in it, so the steam won't go through to your mat, but if that makes you nervous, you just take your mat off and you can put this on here, and then this will turn as well. Now, as an upgrade, they did make the wool mat, so the wool mat will also fit on here, okay? If you're not gonna press, you can put it on your mat, but here's the beauty. If you are gonna use steam when you press, you just put it on the turntable, and then it doesn't matter, and you can steam right through that. Then, what they've decided in their infinite wisdom to do, which I thought this was kind of brilliant, because if you're going to do paper piecing, or you're going to do, you're gonna go on a retreat or something, maybe you have limited space, so you wanna have your cutting surface on one spot, or you wanna have your cutting surface as a turntable, and then you wanna have your pressing surface. So what they just came out with was an upgrade to that. So let's say you have your cutting surface here. They came out with a no-slip mat. So you can take your no-slip mat and put your ironing board on the no-slip mat, and then it doesn't go anywhere. So you could set it next to your ironing board, and now your ironing surface doesn't slip because that no-slip mat stops it. If I take that mat out and set this down, look at how this mat slips and slides. Okay, so this is like traction control for your Martelli products. Okay, so the roundabout comes as the turntable, as the cutting mat, and the pressing surface. And then if you want to upgrade your roundabout, you can also get the no-slip mat and the wool mat. Okay, so they all go together. Okay, we good?
Yes, we did have 2 people comment on what the little iron should be called.
What's her name?
Minnie, as in Minnie Mouse.
Minnie Mouse, there we go. That's her name, Minnie, and I'm gonna write her little name on the side. I love that. I give names to everything. I just feel like everything should personify something, I guess. Okay, so that's what I have to show on today's demo. I hope this raises your pressing game a little bit. When I teach my beginning quilting classes, the first thing I teach everybody is how to cut a straight line, and the second thing that we spend probably too much time talking about is why pressing is important, okay? So don't skip over the pressing part. It really is key to getting quality patchwork, okay? Wednesday's sale this week is gonna be low volume prints. So if you like doing collage quilts, or you need stuff for contrast, that's gonna be Wednesday's sale, is low volume stuff. So think whites and grays and neutrals. And then we did get a whole bunch of stuff checked in, so we are going to have a bunch of new fabric to show on Friday. So I hope everybody has a really great week, and we will see you on Wednesday. Bye.